Okay, welcome to the July 2022 monthly meeting of the Houston chapter of the Nonfiction Authors Association. We are broadcasting live on Facebook Live. We're on Zoom right now. It's being recorded. For anybody who would like a copy, please let me know. I'll make sure that you get a copy. Good to see you pop in there, Fred. And we're honored today because I have a very good friend of mine, CJ. She and her sister Lydia own a company called TexasSistersPress.com. And they're both a little bit north of Houston. And right now, we as authors have a chance to talk to a publisher and find out, get those questions answered. I mean, I publish, but I have a very narrow niche. But for somebody who has a much wider niche, a much better understanding, has a lot of customers, plus CJ is how many dozen books have you written?
I think I'm up to 16 novels and 2 children's books.
And then your sister's about the same way. It's
No, she's got like 5 or 6
okay,
children's
a
books
half a
and
dozen,
a middle grade reader. Yeah.
half a dozen.
Mhm.
Okay, so we
But
go.
she has 4 words and one's an international, and I have 9 and one's an international.
So anyway, very accomplished writers, very knowledgeable in the writing, marketing, and publishing business. And so we're going to have a chance to listen to CJ talk. Initially, first question that I want to ask out the gate is, what should an author be looking for when they go out? Just, what do publishers offer and what is really required? And then the next follow-up question is, tell us a lot about Texas Sisters Press, because there's a lot to learn there, and CJ is a person to let you know. So I'm going to go ahead and highlight you, I hope, here, if I can pin you right. So please tell us about publishing in general. What should a new author expect, or somebody who wants to take a book they previously had and put it into your press? Just go for it.
Just go for it. Okay, we're gonna just go for it. Well, my name is CJ Peterson. You can find a lot about me on cjpetersonwrites.com, cjpetersonwrites.com. But today we're going to talk about presses, and my sister and I do co-own Texas Sisters Press, and that is at TEXAS. This is where it gets fun. SISTERSPRESS.com. And what we do, basically, there are probably about 4 different types of publishers out there. There's the traditional, which is usually an agent, or you've sent the query letter and they've accepted you and that sort of thing, and they kind of help you along in a different way. They do take a little bit more of your profit, but they usually use it more toward like marketing and other things. There's a vanity press, which will take literally anything that you send to them and they'll put it out there for you. There's the independent authors, which is how I started, how my sister started, probably how a lot of authors generally have started now lately. That's kind of an uptrend. And that's where you do literally everything. You do the editing, or find an editor, you find a copy editor and content, you find your cover artist, you do your own formatting, you do all your uploading, everything, but it's all yours. And then there's a hybrid. This has somehow been meshed with the vanity, and it's not the same thing. We are a hybrid press. As a hybrid press, what we do is we literally work with our authors, because your success means our success as well. But we do not take every book. What we tend to do is we tend to meet with each author to find out where they are in the process, what they hope to be, what their book is about, kind of even to see if just personalities, if we're a good fit. When we accept an author, we're accepting the author into the Texas Sisters Press family. And in doing so, we're going to take you under our wing. A lot of times there are first-time authors and they don't have a clue about what they're doing. They're like, I don't know where to start. I don't know where to go from here. And what we do at Texas Sisters Press is I do a marketing branding course. I take them through it. It's about an hour or 2. And then what we do is we spend time making sure that all of your social medias are streamlined and that it's all flowing together. Because there's nothing more painful than when you're trying to share an interview with somebody, or you're trying to tag somebody and they have 6 different handles on all 6 different social medias. That's painful. You want it streamlined as much as possible. So I teach you marketing and branding tips. I also run our authors through in the fall a holiday advertising. So I take them usually in about September. That gives them a few months to kind of get in gear, getting ready, and go, okay, I know what I'm doing. So when November comes, they're ready to run. Our goal is to make sure that our authors are ready to run when they go to launch and when holiday comes. If there's special marketing information that comes to us, we make sure to pass it along. When we do get an author, we call our authors authorpreneurs. They're not really entrepreneurs, they're authorpreneurs. And the spin on that is because they are their own marketing team. They are their own PR team. They are running their own business. And we kind of teach them how to do that. And in doing that, our authors retain all of their rights for everything except for the ISBN number, because the ISBN number is actually attached to Texas Sisters Press. It cannot be revoked. But other than that, it's a non-exclusive contract. They could take their book wherever they want to. Our authors keep 90% of the net from Ingram, and they keep 100% of their net from Kindle because they have their own KDP account. But that allows them to kind of teach them how to run a Kindle account, a KDP account. Lydia helps usually in the formatting and the uploading. If there's a cover that needs to be done, a lot of times we'll work with the author. Between her and I, both of us are graphic type people. We'll figure out, for a cover, make it fit, make it pretty, make it nice. When we first started Texas Sisters Press, one of the most painful things we ran into being independent authors is people like to cut corners, which I understand sometimes financial's an issue. The problem is if people cut corners, it's a bad look on the entire author community. So when they come to us, some have no idea where to start looking for an editor. We do have a list of editors that we've worked with before. We get no kickbacks, but we, offer a list. Here's a place to start. If they're a children's book author and they need an illustrator, same thing. We have a list of people that we've worked with, and we'll let them, start with that and see what happens with it. We have no on-staff editors, no on-staff illustrators. Basically, it's family owned and family run, and that's kind of how we do it. We also, when it is time, if it's a new author, we'll do like a 5-10 minute cover reveal, usually a week or two prior to the book launch. And then for the book launch, what we like to do is we like to pull in other authors of kind of like genre. And we have this huge book launch party, which offers cross promotion for everybody that's involved. And there's prizes and everybody's having fun and sharing about their work. It's always a fun thing to do. On our submissions page is the best way to possibly find out more about Texas Sisters Press and what we do and what we don't do. We don't hide anything. Our price list is on there and our contract is on there. You can download them straight from the website. And explains exactly what we do and what we don't do in plain letters. We have testimonials from our authors. We love our author family. We currently are accepting for black and white interior books. It's a limited number because the holidays are coming. We're kind of putting a hold on the children's book because we're a children's book heavy right now. So we need to kind of lean more toward the black and white. But for August, we have a children's book launching. Diane Floyd Bame's book is launching August 2nd. Mine is launching either the end of August, beginning of September. We have another one, Cindy Flo's children's book is launching. And then we have the Texas Sisters Press annual anthology. It's a holiday themed anthology. And we love this because it gives everybody, whether they're published or not, a chance to jump in and do a short story. You can find out more about that on the website. The deadline for that is August 15th. And it needs to be in my email and fully edited. So you can get more of the submission guidelines on there. As far as what we do not do, I told you so far what we do. What we don't do, we are not available 24/7. I'm going to be flat out honest. I have a farm, Lydia has a farm, we have other businesses that we keep spinning. But you can email or you can text us. Our authors have our phone numbers, and we'll get back to them as soon as we possibly can, and they know it. We are not their PR firm. We are not required to share their stuff. We are also not required to take their book, even if they've already published with us. We have a certain bar, and our authors know about that bar. And so sometimes they'll hand us a book and say, hey, can you read this to tell me if it's a fit? If it's not a fit, then we know where we can send them to other people as well, where they can get published as well. Because our goal is we're all in this together. And we want to put out a quality product for anybody and everybody who needs to or wants their book published. But it has to be the right fit for the right company, because not every company is for every person. It's kind of the same idea with that. Did I hit everything?
Okay, so you have an author their book is done, it's
Mhm.
edited, it's proofed, they have a manuscript, and you've agreed, you've looked at it, it's okay, fine.
Yeah,
Uh,
we read every one.
And so now you're at that position, you approve the book, you have a manuscript, let's say it's 150 pages, 8.5 by 11,
Mhm.
and they do not have a cover, so you work with them on a cover.
Mhm.
uh, And you work with them on their, when it will be published and ready to be marketed and things like that.
Yep.
You have a campaign that you train them a little bit, get them set up for their own social media marketing. They
And I
also,
teach them. I've actually had to make manuals for some of ours. So I have literal manuals for social media. I have for like if they have a GoDaddy account, I can tell them how to run their website in the back end of a GoDaddy. And I've had to do that. So we have the manuals.
so they get it in there, it's priced, it's all set up. And you
Mhm.
mentioned Ingram Sparks.
Mhm.
Now, not everybody is familiar with them. Most people think publishing is Amazon or Kindle. Ingram is kind of a unique, you go a little detail about Ingram and let us know what that aspect of the publishing world is.
Definitely. Amazon is the gorilla in the middle of the room we all have to deal with. Sometimes they're good, sometimes they're not good. I've gone toe to toe with them multiple times because, like I said, I have 16 books. So trust me, it's going to happen at some point in your career if you have more than one. And so I've learned to not put all my eggs in one basket. I like Ingram because it does a little bit more broad. For paperbacks, they do paperbacks in Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And actually, some of them do actually go into Walmart as well as Target and or Target. It just depends on the phase of the moon is what I tell people, because some of mine do and some of mine don't. And then the ebooks are iTunes, Kobo, Nook, and Kindle. But we don't put them on Kindle for the Ingram. We give them their own KDP account and let them run that themselves.
Okay.
That's kind of the difference, but it gives a little bit more of a broad spectrum. So you can do paperback and hardback and ebook all through Ingram. Amazon, it's kind of your choice. If you don't want an ISBN number, Amazon gives you an AISN number. So it's kind of like, what do you want to do?
What does the term quality books for the family imply?
Well, our line is, our mother passed away a year or two ago, actually a year and a half ago. And she was an 86-year-old from Southern Belle in Texas. And so we figure if she can read it and not blush, that was our line. But we wanted quality books, meaning they have to be fully edited. They have to be professionally done, not your grandma who's going to go edit because she taught 6th grade for 26 years, because that was our mother. So we understand that fact. But you need a professional editor. If it's a black and white book, you need a copy and a content editor. For illustrations, they have to be quality illustrations. And because we've seen a lot of books out there where, like I said before, people try to cut corners and save in the editing process or in the illustrations, and they're just not really quality books. But the family part is because of that line. If our mother can read it and not blush, we were good.
I don't know your mother well enough to make a good judgment. Does she
That's why
read
we read everything.
military history?
Pardon?
Does she read military history without blushing?
That depends on the book. I grew up Army brat. My husband's retired Navy senior chief.
So was
And
I.
so, thank you for your service. And
A
so
brat.
we we read through all of them. And that's the difference, is that we make sure to read through them to see if they fit that bar. And if they don't, then we recommend somewhere else that we know that they can go to.
Okay, that's fair.
You mentioned Ingram Spark on the hardcover book.
Mhm.
Until recently, Amazon didn't offer a hardcover option.
They do now.
They do now in certain sizes. I'm in the process of maybe trying to convert one of mine just so I kind of see what the quality is and what it has to go through. But the Ingram Spark, you get into other accounts and you name those. One you didn't name was iBookstore. Is that one that goes into or not?
iTunes.
An iBookstore, is there such a thing?
iTunes is Apple Books.
Okay. Okay, so that answered my question on that one. The photos, are they supposed to guarantee that they're royalty free? Because that's an area that can be,
Anything that has to do with any type of legal issue, like for example, if there's a memoir and you haven't gotten permission and somebody sues you later, they can't sue us, it's you.
okay,
So it's up to the author to make sure that yes, you are covered legally. And there's a couple times where we've read something and I said, you may want to change this because it may come back to bite you later. And so that's one of the other reasons why we read everything to say, okay, I don't see any problems. We're good to go.
yeah.
Or
You-
I do see this, you may want to readjust this.
I've had a problem where a woman could not get her son to sign off on a release. So she just referred to him as her son. And
Mhm.
didn't name him, just said my son.
Yeah. I mean, and there are other times where it's like if there's too many of them, sometimes I might recommend them fictionalizing it.
Yes, that's the other aspect. You can go down that road.
Mhm.
So let me see here. I did have a special request that it took me a long time to solve the problem. Recently, I published a cookbook. However, she wanted a spiral bound cookbook so that it would fit flush on the table so that when people were writing their notes, she didn't have to worry. We published it as an ebook and as a paperback, but she wanted spiral binding.
She's gonna have to go to another printer. We have another one who wanted board books for children. And so what I did for her, because she was part of the family, is I went through and I researched board books and I sent her a couple different companies that did board books.
Yeah. So anyway, we solved that quite uniquely, but that's kind of
How did you solve it?
She would have the books printed at Amazon, sent to her. She had a local printer that she would take them down to, that would cut the spine off, drill the holes, and bind them for her at a much, much cheaper rate than she could find anywhere else. We found a couple actual publishers that would do it, but they were so expensive. And the
So
big
it's
team of them.
kind of like if you wanted the spiral, you had to get a hold of her specifically, which is kind of nice because it's an exclusive thing.
Yeah.
Or they have the paperback version or
Yeah, so
the
she'd buy 20 books at a time, take them down. They would cut off that perfect binding or whatever you call it, drill the holes, put the spiral in there, and then she pick them up. And it was a much easier way for her to take. So she sells those out of her car or whatever she's doing at the time and off her
Very
website.
smart.
And so that worked out to be very, very nice. But that was a bit of a bugaboo because that's kind of a unique one. And I never, it was difficult. It's like children's books are not necessarily easy to get published because of sizes and other things. What is Amazon, the least they'll do minimum pages like 24. I know Barnes and Noble used to be 40. I think they're probably less than that now. But
Well, part of that is the amount of pages you have to have for a spine.
Yeah.
You know what
And
I mean? But that's that whole board book situation. Probably if it's smaller than that, you might want to go to think about board books. And so it's like when you're presented with something, it's something where we may lose the book. But I would rather that the author is happy with the finished product. So like your example for the spiral thing was brilliant. I wouldn't have thought of that. That's a great idea. And so when we can work together and kind of share those types of ideas, to me, that's what the whole author world is about.
so your the value that you offer is the personal touch, the extra training that helps the author get more sales, and the knowledge of, well, if you put it through this particular hoop here, you're going to end up with a wider distribution as opposed to somebody else saying, here's Kindle, here's Amazon, thank you very much.
Yeah, and the other thing I do is, for example, some of the ones who've done secondary books with us is I'll help them with their author one sheets, which go usually on their tables. And so I teach them how to use Canva and I train them. This is how you make your author one sheet. And I do it via screen. So they're building it in their own Canva. And that allows them to make the changes later. And I'm teaching them how to work in Canva for their different ads and stuff as well.
Okay, so all your books you published yourself, is that right?
Correct.
Okay. And what was the biggest problem you found in publishing your own books? What kind of lessons did you learn that now you're taking advantage of those lessons?
Okay. Well, when I first published, I was an independent author. And so I was working with a different company, which was, again, a non-exclusive contract. They did all the formatting and uploading and all of that stuff that like we do with Texas Sisters Press. The biggest issue I had was the biggest pain in the behind was honestly with Amazon. I ended up sending my contract for 12 different books, no less than 8 times a piece, before I finally had to get a hold of some sort of manager down in KBDP to let them know with all 12 books that it says non-exclusive contract. This is my book. And that to me was the biggest pain in the behind, is actually dealing with KDP, trying to get that sorted. After that point, all the other books were all changed some way or another, or they were brand new, so it hasn't been an issue. But it's like when you hit roadblocks, I look at them as growing experiences. I'm like, okay, what can I learn from this? How can I help my authors with this? And the more you run into those, actually, the better you're going to be, because you're going to be able to know how to problem shoot.
On formatting, do you have any particular fonts that you recommend for your different genres of books?
For the children's books, yes, there's actually a dyslexia font.
Yeah,
A lot
okay.
of our authors choose to use this font, and some of them don't, but a lot of the ones do, because dyslexia is actually a big problem with kids, and the bottom of the letters are heavy. And so it's actually called like open dyslexia, or it's an actual dyslexia font that we use for the children's books. And it helps the children to be able to read, especially those who do have reading issues and dyslexia issues.
Did you hear about the dyslexic atheist who didn't believe in a dog?
No, you're so bad. For the big people books, one thing we do use is a program called Vellum for
Which
formatting.
one? Which
Vellum,
one? Okay.
VELLUM, which is a wonderful thing. And so that has helped out immensely. My sister, I call her the Photoshop queen. A lot of times I will do a mock-up of the cover, and she will repeat it in Photoshop and does her little Photoshop twist to it and makes it look awesome. But she's
And,
also the one that a lot of times will format the children's books.
and on the covers, that requires a different kind of font entirely than you would see inside the content of a book too.
For example, these are both of my children's books. So these are the different types of books, but the interior is that dyslexia font. If you can see it.
Yeah, very easily. Thank you.
It has like the heavier bottom to it. Meanwhile, like the covers for my big people books, I did this cover myself. And then vellum on the inside, you can do some really cool stuff. It can be very pretty. You can change like the little dividers into different things. So like for this one was a DNA helix, because it has to do with DNA. So you can add the little personal touches to it. My sister, with her dragon book, The Nightmare King, she had on some of the pages, because they start always on the right-hand side. If the left was an open page, sometimes she'd put a picture of a dragon in there to kind of add a little bit, or a sword, to add a little bit to the story for the kids, because hers is a middle grade reader.
Could you repeat what you said about your use of vellum? Are we talking about the software product vellum?
Yes.
Okay, so that's as an alternative to Affinity Publisher, or are those?
Vellum is a system that we use to format the black and white books, black and white interior books.
Quick question on the, where was I going? I had it here a second ago. I was listening for the answer that Fred asked. Let me back out because I can't remember what I was
Okay.
going to.
Did I answer your question, Fred? I want to make
Yes,
sure I answered
you
your
did.
question.
I couldn't understand what you were saying. It wasn't my problem.
I said
so.
we use vellum to format the interior of the black and white books. We use Photoshop for the children's books.
Use Photoshop for
the children's books, the interior of the children's books, and also for covers.
Okay. Now, does this mean submissions to you should be made in vellum, or do you take it from doc and PDF and all that jazz?
We prefer the Word document, because then we can format it through vellum.
Do you provide any assistance on illustrations?
What we do is we have a list of editors that you can start with that we have worked with, and also illustrators that we have worked with in the past. We do not get any kickbacks from them. We just have a list of them to give you somewhere to start. We do not have any on staff.
Who does one go to license illustrations? Is that done by the editor typically, or by an illustrator, or a third party, or you get your Easter egg hat on and go?
No. That's going to depend on who you have doing them. what I recommend to people to do is to make sure they have the commercial rights to the illustrations, because that's going to solve a lot of issues, especially for children's book authors.
Okay.
When you have a children's book and it says ages 5 to 8, how do you know the actual words being used are for that age group? Is that something you all kind of QC and say, yeah or no, you're really writing at a level much higher than first grade, second grade?
That one is actually more Lydia's department, because I'm a big people book person. In case you couldn't tell, I'm big people heavy. I have 16 versus 2. I am a children's author by accident.
I have a question for you. I noticed that, okay, what are you using for a backdrop right now yourself? Is it an image or what?
You mean this
All
right
of
here?
that, yes.
This is a green screen, and I made the image and you can upload it into Zoom.
Okay, so now if I don't have a green screen behind me, but if I did, would you be able to see this?
No.
See, I'm
Not if
showing
it's
the
green.
book.
See the green in this? See how it kind of looks funky?
Yes.
Okay, if you have green, you can't use a green book, but if you have a regular book, you can. So for example, at Christmas time with the green screen, I learned you can't wear a green shirt or you look like a floating head.
It might be better than a talking head. But boom.
That's that famous thing that happened to Melania Trump. She wore a green dress, and somehow people who know IT can project things onto her green dress. So people were seeing her wearing like, I hate Trump, and I don't know, all kind of stuff that was projected onto her green dress. And I said, do not ever wear green for broadcast things.
CJ, do you have anything you want to conclude with that you may not have thought about earlier, but you just popped in the back of your mind?
Well, my main thing is, okay, if you're interested in the holiday anthology, please make sure to submit by August 13th or August 15th. Has to be fully edited, and the submission guidelines are on the website. If you're interested in Texas Sisters Press, go to texassisterspress.com under the submissions page. Everything is spelled out, what we do, what we don't do. There's testimonials, the contract is on there, and the price list is on there. And literally, there's no secrets. We don't like surprises. We don't like when they come up, and we understand that fact, being authors ourselves. We try to take everybody under our wing. In the meantime, get a hold of me if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. You can get me at cjpetersonwrites@yahoo.com. I'll be happy to see if I can help you.
Julie Connor's Bayou City Press is going to host in person NFAA Houston chapter. We're going to do an in-person and also hopefully a virtual one with a Zoom out of her business. That's sort of the current plan. Amy is going to be our guest speaker next month. She's won a couple of big awards, and we'll give her a chance to let her have the floor and talk about the services she offers for authors and go from there. So she'll be on virtually. She lives up in the College Station area, and that's just too long a drive to come down right in the middle of rush hour traffic to try to make that happen. So in the meantime, I'll make sure that I coordinate everything well with Julie in advance, and we'll go from there. And Julie, you have anything to add with regard to potentially having the meeting at your place next month?
Yeah, so when we used to meet in Houston, we met at a restaurant, and a lot of people, including me, would order food there. I don't have food at my house. It's just a house, an office, but they're very close in my neighborhood. There's a Jack in the Box, there's a Whataburger, there's a Taco Cabana, there's everything. So my suggestion would be, if you're coming from work or you haven't had dinner, you just stop by and pick up some takeout and bring it with you. And that will be fine.
Questions for me, feel free to email me, cjpetersonwrites@yahoo.com. Or you can go to Texas Sisters Press's website. All the information is on there.
Okay.
Thank you so very much, CJ.
Appreciated it.